As you begin to explore the kink community, you are going to hear about vetting, both for parties and for play partners. So what is vetting? How is it done? And what should you expect? Stick around and we're going to talk about that today. Hey guys, it's Morgan with BDSM Relationships and Education. Thank you very much for checking out this video. Today we're going to be talking all about vetting. If you haven't done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, I have a link for that below. Anyways, let's talk about vetting within the community. So within BDSM, we like to vet people both for play parties and for potential new partners. Sometimes it's a very formal process, and sometimes it's a very not formal process. It really depends on who's doing the vetting and what it's for. So we're going to go through and look at a bunch of different vetting techniques that you will come across fairly regularly within the BDSM community. So before we get to the how of vetting, let's talk quickly about the why of vetting. BDSM requires a lot of trust, obviously. There's a lot of room for abuse, both of individuals and of position and all kinds of different things. So that with that potential for abuse, we need to be very, very careful of who we let into our lives and into our communities and into our homes and parties and everything else. So it's really, really important that we have trust for the people that we are associating with and that we are welcoming into, our spaces. So with a lot of the community moving online, vetting becomes even more important because we don't know some of the people that we're talking to face to face. We really only know them from online or the internet. So you can hide a lot that way. I think the internet is fantastic for bringing people together, and I think it's done great things for the BDSM community as a whole. But it also opens up room for a lot of deception because I could be anybody on the internet. If you don't see me, or if I use some stolen pictures, I could be a 6.5 foot tall man instead of a 5 foot tall woman, right? So it's important to make sure that the person you're talking to is who they say that they are, especially if you're looking at, potentially playing with this person or dating them or any of that stuff. It's no different really than online dating in that respect. Where, this is something you'll hear all the time, that BDSM dating is just like dating, right? But we want to make sure that they are who they say they are. We also want to make sure that they have the skills that they say they do, because a lot of stuff within BDSM does take a lot of skill to prevent injury and, damage in general to the body, to things around you. People can really screw someone up by doing BDSM wrong. It's part of why I have this channel, to help you guys out. We also should want to make sure that the people we're welcoming into our homes, our parties, communities, relationships, whatever, don't have a history of abuse. Now, I'm not saying that people can't change. They absolutely can, but I'm saying that it's unlikely. A lot of people, unless they get serious help from professionals. This is not something. So we want to make sure that they don't have a history of abusing people. That to me is really important because, like I said, unless somebody can show me that they've done the work to really change, and I do believe that some people can do it. I just don't believe that most people have the drive, the desire, the commitment, whatever it is. I don't think enough people have that in them. And I'm probably very, very cynical, but you make your own decisions there. So I also want to make sure that people in my life respect boundaries. So if I have a boundary, I don't care if somebody thinks that it's a stupid boundary. I don't want them to push it. For instance, I'll give you like a personal example. One of my boundaries is that I don't like to be touched by people in general, but strangers especially, or people that I don't know very well especially. And the reason, and I'll explain the reason later. Some of you guys already know. But anyways, so some people think this is a silly boundary. Because, my aversion to touch goes to the level of, like, don't touch my arm, don't touch my hair, don't rub my shoulders, don't do any of that kind of stuff. I don't want anybody to touch me generally. Now, if you ask for, say, a hug, I am inclined to be like, yes, let's have a hug or whatever. But that depends on how well I know the person or how I'm feeling that day or whatever. But some people feel that my boundary is silly. And so they feel that they can just disregard my boundary and they will touch me. And it's just casual touch. And I don't mean like sexual touch or anything like that, that would be most people's boundaries. I mean that they'll, put their hand on my arm or whatever it is while we're talking. Minor things, or they'll give me a big hug without asking first, which is like, you don't ever do that with me. Now, they think that it's a silly boundary. What they don't realize is that it's a very important boundary to me because I have chronic pain, because half of my body feels like it is on fire pretty much 24/7. And it sucks. And when people touch me in a light way in certain parts of my body, it feels like, well, they might as well have like punched me as hard as they could or stabbed me or whatever. So it's really kind of a serious thing for me. And when I say I don't like to be touched, it's because it's incredibly painful for me. And I don't think that that's a stupid boundary. But if you didn't know that, well, you might think that my boundary is silly. So if you think my boundary is silly, you're not the type of person I want to be around, pretty much ever. And you're not the type of person I'm going to have into my home. Because what if you also think that my boundary of don't steal my stuff is a silly boundary because you really like my stuff and you want to have it for yourself, right? People who will willy-nilly violate boundaries are going to violate boundaries, no matter how big or small they are. So if you have someone who's pushing a small, seemingly insignificant boundary, that is a problem. It's a bit of a rant. Sorry, that wasn't in my script here, but I think that it was important to talk about either way. So I have a list of 10 things that you can do in order to vet potential partners, because I think that it's so, so important. So the first thing that you want to do is meet in public. If you have never met this person before, you've only talked online, then you should absolutely meet in public. So you can meet at a munch, at a coffee shop, at a park, at a restaurant, wherever it is, meet in public. Now, sometimes people will suggest that you make sure that your car is, away so that they can't see the license plate, because if they're potentially a stalker, then, they could, see your license plate, they could find out where you live or whatever. Now, I personally don't know if I would really go that far. I think that really depends on you and your own comfort level with this type of thing. And I mean, I haven't had a lot of problems with stuff like that. I did have once where I was at a party, a bunch of us were talking. I mentioned that I lived in this one particular area within the city. And I would say that all the time. I would be like, oh yeah, I used to live in the beach. So I was, oh, I live in the beach. And it's, it's not a small area necessarily. But then I noticed this one guy that I had maybe said 2 words to at the party, and he would be always walking past my house, and I had never seen him before. And sometimes he would talk to me, and sometimes he would just kind of look at me. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize you live in the neighborhood. And he's like, oh, I don't. So that was a little creepy. So sometimes, you do need to be careful of what you say, because you never know. Now, I mean, the situation wasn't a big deal. I told him that this was making me uncomfortable, and he backed off, and I didn't see him hanging around my house anymore. So it was all good. No harm, no foul. But, so I don't know if maybe he was just really socially awkward and didn't realize that this was going to be a problem. And because sometimes people are like that, they just don't understand that what they're doing is going to be creepy. So I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. But, that only extends so far, because, I don't know, I'm not a trusting person, so there is that. So the next thing, number 2, is get to know the person and not the title. So if you're talking to somebody online and they are Lord Domley Pants, then, get to know who the person behind Lord Domley Pants or Lady Domley Pants, it goes both ways, who they are, right? Because that's who you're going to be spending the most time with, not, this big inflated title or whatever. So get to know the person and not the title. Ask about experience, past relationships, and that kind of stuff. Like, find out if you've had If you have similar ideas about kink, just make sure that you kind of align there. Now, I mean, experience isn't the be all and end all, right? I mean, I have met some people who are absolutely amazing and they have no experience, and that's fine, because I mean, you can always gain experience, you can always learn, and that's not a big deal. But what we're looking for here is honesty, right? If you're 20 years old and you tell me, oh, I have 10 years experience in BDSM, I'm gonna kind of look at you weird and be like, you're doing kink at 10 years old? I don't think so. I mean, I began young. I was in my teens and, too young to be doing a lot of this stuff, but things were different back then. But no, I mean, like, you do have to evaluate. Is this person telling me the truth? Are they exaggerating their experience just to sound cool or whatever? And listen to the things that they say, especially if it's like something that you know about, right? So I've had people tell me about stuff that I'm pretty much what I would say an expert in, and I'm just like, wow, that's a whole lot of bullshit you just said. You don't have any experience. You've never done this before in your life. So you can kind of tell by listening sometimes, especially if it's an area that you have experience in and they obviously don't, but are trying to pretend like they do. So just find out if you have similar ideas and philosophies regarding kink. So talk to other people that know them if that is an option. So if you are in the kink community and they are also in the kink community, ask around about them. There's a bunch of people within the kink community that if you ask around about, you're not going to hear good things. But if you listen to them tell it, they're very important and they're very prominent within the kink community. So people lie, people exaggerate. And they often will do so to make themselves seem more important. So yeah, there's a bunch of them that if you ask around, you are not going to hear good things, but according to them, they're legends in their own minds. So sort of related to that, ask for references, right? Ask for references of people that they have played with or what have you that will be able to give you an idea of who they are and what they're like. Now, take it all with a grain of salt, because most people are not going to give you a reference that's going to say bad things about them. I told a story in the other video regarding a previous client who gave me as a reference, and I was like, no, stay the hell away. That guy is not dangerous, but he's bad news, So sometimes it happens, and I don't understand that, but I think that it's a bit of a delusional thing where they think that they're so awesome that, the bad stuff that they did to one person isn't like bad or something. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not going to really speculate too much there. But, ask for references, but do take it with a grain of salt. Also, if you are contacting references online, keep in mind that it's really easy to make a sock account and give my own reference, right? So I could have a sock account of a male submissive and be like, oh yeah, no, she's the greatest thing ever. Oh my God. We shouldn't have broken up. We should still be together or whatever, but it's just me telling you this, right? So be aware of that. And try to find references that you both know in person or that type of thing, ideally. And again, references are not always the best thing because they can so easily be faked or lied, or just, somebody that's going to say something good, right? Abusive people aren't abusive to everybody that they come in contact with. We have to remember this. So if I have hung out with person A and they were awesome and totally fine and super nice to me, but then they hung out with another person, person B, and person A abused person B. Just because they were nice to me doesn't mean that person B is lying, right? I mean, maybe they were just nice to me and abusive to person B. That can happen, right? So just keep that in mind, because I don't know, it's something that I see being used to dismiss victims of abuse all the time. But he was nice to me. She was nice to me. So, yeah, so don't fall for that. Abusive people are not abusive to everyone they come in contact with. Do a friend test. right? Hang out with friends, either their friends or your friends, and find out if your friends like them, what they think of this person, and hang out with their friends. Find out if you can stand their friends. Because I'll tell you right now, if you go and hang out with somebody and all of their friends are, racist and bigoted and everything else, chances are they are too, right? Like, uh, as a person who is staunchly anti-racist, I wouldn't hang out with anybody who is racist, right? It doesn't make any sense. So, I mean, like, unless this is the person's, like, embarrassing uncle that they have to, like, oh God, suffer through at a family function or something once or twice a year, I mean, you can kind of judge people by the company they keep, because these are choices that people make. If you choose to hang around awful people, I'm going to assume that you also are a pretty awful person. So make sure you spend some time just doing vanilla shit, right? It shouldn't be kink, kink, kink all the time. I mean, ideally that would be fantastic. Well, probably not, because then we get bored, right? But I mean, it's just not realistic. So spend vanilla time, go to a movie, go to dinner, whatever, and just be regular people and find out, who they are, what they're like, how they treat you outside of play. I think that's really, really important. Also, while you're doing all of this vanilla stuff, find out how they treat others, right? If you go to a restaurant and they treat the wait staff like shit, to me that's pretty telling. I like that is for me that is grounds to end a date right there. Because if somebody is going to look at someone in a serving position as below them and beneath them and treat them poorly, then I don't want to be around that person. I want somebody who is going to be kind to everyone. So number 9 on my little list here is go slow. Don't rush into things. Like, if they're a decent person and they're really as awesome as you think they are, they're going to understand wanting to wait. They're still going to be around a month from now or a week from now or whatever, right? So don't rush. Just go at the pace that you feel comfortable at, and obviously that they feel comfortable at, because we can only go as fast as the slowest partner. We talked about that before, but also just, there's no need to rush into everything. But, if two people have a connection, that connection is still going to be there tomorrow. The world is not going to end, we hope. Just going to throw that out there. We hope the world will not end tomorrow or the next day or any time soon. But anyways, and see how they react if you ask to slow things down. See how, like, are they going to be really pushy? Are they going to be like, but now, like, how are they going to react to these things? Because here, again, you're kind of testing boundaries and their response to boundaries. You're saying, no, I need to slow down. And if they don't react well to that, well, is this really somebody you want to be in a position of trust with, right? And finally, listen to your instincts and hone your instincts. I mean, if you don't have good instincts, then work on that. And I don't really know how to work on that exactly. I'll research it and we'll figure it all out together. And if you guys have suggestions for improving instincts, like, fucking leave those below. If you have a bad feeling, get out of there. Get somewhere where it's going to be safe. And just listen to your instincts, because they usually are right. And sometimes all you need is to, like, take a step back from a situation and think about it. And sometimes you can be like, oh, I was just being silly and overreacting because I was nervous and, I had all these expectations and whatever. And then you can go back to the situation, or you can step back and be like, ooh, dodged a bullet. So just keep that in mind as well. Listen to your instincts. And I also want to put out there that this is not just for bottoms or submissives, but this is for tops as well. Trust is just as important, going both ways, because, I mean, obviously a bottom or a submissive needs to trust that the top or dominant is going to respect their boundaries, is going to listen to their safe word or their no or whatever. Those are really, really important things. But a top and a dominant also needs to trust the submissive or the bottom, to know that they're going to use a safe word when they need to, or say no when they need to. They aren't going to turn around tomorrow and have regret and say that we violated them because, whatever. And I mean, part of that is also going to be our responsibility to obtain affirmative consent, damn it. because we don't want to have people regretting the play that they've done with us. But we need to be able to trust both ways. I need to trust my bottom is going to tell me that they are close to their limit, or that they are, that I'm doing something that is causing them injury, or whatever it is. I need to trust that they will vocalize that or express it somehow. Just like they need me to trust that I will stop when they tell me that they need to stop, right? So it's very, very important both ways. So anyways, thank you very much. This is my 10 different little ways that you can vet somebody for play or whatever you're looking for. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it or you learned something, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you guys in the next video.